Welcome to Research Methods, everybody. It's great to have you here. This class is probably one of the most stressful classes of the whole IDS core. Note I said the most stressful, not the most difficult, but the most stressful. And typically what we see is students come in and go, oh my goodness, I haven't done research forever. I have to write this really big paper. I haven't written a paper in forever. I don't know how to cite APA. I've been out of school for 20 years. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. They look at classes like communication and go, I've been communicating for 25 years. I can do that. I understand leadership. I've had leadership opportunities in my life, but research, there's no way I can do research. I get it. I understand. That's why it's the most stressful. And I'm here and I want to start off before we go anywhere further and assure you, you're going to do fine. I promise you're going to do fine. So get rid of the stressors, move them aside, and once you get rid of that most stressful class, the rest is cake. So we're going to do fine. This course is really, we're going to be putting together a research assignment. I will be here every step of the way, whether you're traditional, whether you're online, you can still find me. I'm still going to be here to help you and assist you. And while you will have writing assignments each week, we are going to be putting together one major paper. So yes, it will be a 15-page paper, and you'll do great. But we're going to be working on it piece by piece by piece. So please don't let that overwhelm you. Don't let that stress you out. Don't let that scare you away. Again, you're going to do awesome. I also want to reassure those of you who have not written a paper in a very long time, who are not quite confident in APA citing, one, that we have resources here that will help you with your citing to make sure that you have it right. There are so many resources online. There are videos, there are written resources, there are fill in the blanks. There are so many things that are available that will help you. Everyone has a preference, everyone has a favorite. That's okay. And worst comes to worst, which it won't, we're grading on a rubric. So even if you got every single piece of grammar wrong in the entire paper, you still won't fail it if you did your research right. And here's the other bonus of this class. Even though you're going to be researching something, you don't have to get it right. You could research something and find out your hypothesis is wrong and still get 100%. Well, still do really great. You don't even have to prove your point. You just have to prove to me that you know and understand how to do research. So let those jitters go away. Don't stress yourself out. You're gonna do great. So let's move forward and do that. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing in this video series is I'm going to highlight some of the terms that students tend to get confused on or struggle with a little bit. They are in your book. You'll see them highlighted in PowerPoints and some different videos that I'll place in the classroom. This video series is just me, not too exciting. I don't have anything really exciting going on in the background. It's just clarity of some of those terms and things that I might be doing in the classroom. So if you do not choose to watch the series, that's perfectly fine. My feelings will not be hurt. If you do choose to, that's great. It's also an extra for some of those students. Some students just really like to have that connection, to see the instructor and have that clarity, feel like they can reach out. At any time you do have questions, feel free to email me, call me. I'm there to help. And then if anybody misses course, if they're traditional, sometimes they like to pull up the video and get that clarification so they're right on track with everybody else. So let's get started. So research, why do we do research? This course is really important. It's a great one to start with. Of course, as the wheel goes on, you may not all be starting in this course, but it really is a great one to start with. In the sense is it helps us to develop some of the critical thinking skills and the paper writing skills you'll be using in other classes. If you're coming into the wheel and you're taking this a little bit later, you've already written some papers. You probably are pretty familiar with the library already. So that's awesome. And this is just going to be enhancing what you already know. So why do we do research? It's really important. Again, we have to develop our critical thinking skills. We don't just want to take for granted something that somebody says all the time. I'm sure you guys have maybe seen the commercial or certainly heard the saying, you know, it's on the internet, so it must be right. I think we all know everything on the internet is not correct. And the more we have instant technology and all this stuff, the more opportunities there are out there for us to get information that may be misleading. So we've got to be able to use critical thinking, and we've got to be able to understand what research is credible, what research is not credible, and how do we further explore things. There's three primary reasons that we'll do research. One is just that, to explore. This is curious. This is interesting. This seems to be a phenomenon here. There's something going on. I'd like to learn more about it. It's that simple. We're just going to explore it and gather more information to determine what direction we might want to study, or maybe we don't. We might find the answers we're looking for just in that exploration. The second thing is to describe it. There's a phenomenon going on, and we need to get more detailed information. And so we're going to be doing research so we can get more detailed information regarding that particular phenomenon. And the last one is to explain it. This research is going to be causational. Now that's a tricky point. We're going to make sure that we're going to come back to that in a minute. We have correlational and we have causational. So an explanation is the only one where we're going to be looking for the cause. We're trying to determine the cause. Much of research is really just information gathering. However, in experimental research, we are actually looking for the cause. So that would be explaining. Correlational research, you heard me talk about that. That's really important as well. We just have to be really careful that you understand it is not causational. So in correlational research, we're gathering data, we're gathering information, and we're determining if two things seem to be linked. They seem to be correlated with, there are two things that are happening, they seem to be happening around the same time all the time. Seems to be every December, Christmas lights go up on houses. Go figure. If they started popping up in May, that would be something we would be looking at. What would be causing that? What would be the reason behind that? Okay, so two things correlate. And so it doesn't mean that they cause each other. In this case, Christmas lights in December, they do. But it's very important that you understand just because two things are correlated, they may cause each other. It may warrant further exploration, but it may not cause each other. For example, in Phoenix, every year after year after year after year, when ice cream sales increase, so do drownings. It's true. It's absolutely true. So if I read that, it would prove to me that it's absolutely true the people in Phoenix cannot handle their ice cream. We should probably take their ice cream away because it would be a humanitarian service. Now, any of you from Phoenix would be going, no way, take away my ice cream. And if I add to the story, I could tell you that violent crime goes up as well at the same time with ice cream sales. So clearly, ice cream's a problem in Phoenix. Except for those are only correlational. They don't cause it. There's another factor that's involved, and that would be the heat index. People eat more ice cream when it's hot. People are more likely to swim and drown when it's hot. And actually, people are more violent when it's hot. And we'll talk about that more in social process. We're more violent, one, and two, we're more outdoors. So we're more likely to be victims of a crime because we're more likely to be outside. So we want to make sure that we don't confuse that. And if we did take all the ice cream from the people in Phoenix and we're always making knee-jerk reactions, can you imagine the world we'd be living in? So we want to be really careful with things like that. We also have to determine when we're doing research, what is going to be our unit of analysis? What is it that we're going to be studying? Is it going to be test scores? Is it going to be people? Is it going to be survey results? Is it going to be heat indexes, quantity of sales? So when we do research, that's very, very important as well, because you're going to be having a lot of data coming through, and sometimes we're going to have to learn, and we'll go through this in a further video. You know, what are we looking for, and are we looking at multiple variants? Is that true only for females? Is that true only for those under 30? So these are things that can be subcategories or subfactors we're going to be looking at, but it's important that we understand what unit we're going to be studying. Two types of studies that we typically would see, or a couple types actually. One is a cross-sectional study, and that is a study based on observations representing a certain point in time. So a great example of that, of a cross-sectional study, would be, let's say, election time. And we want to see who do we think we would make, they'd make calls, surveys, internet, however you get your information, who are you going to vote for today? So we're going to cross the board on May 15th with the information you have today. Who do we think is number one to be voted for? Or what would you do about this particular political event? Or any particular thing you're going to look at. So it's cross-sectional. We're going to grab men and women. We're going to grab young and old. We're going to be grabbing cross races, everything. Anybody and everybody we can get a hold of, and we want to get the general percentage to the best of our ability to understand what people think about a particular thing at a particular time. You may change your mind from May to November. Right now happens to be a time where politics are ramping up as we're preparing for a presidential election. Who I may choose to think I might want as my candidate today may be very different than after the debates or after whatever may happen as they see them prove themselves. So that's what a cross-sectional study is. We're going to go across all sections to the best of our ability to see what people think of a subject at that time. We also have longitudinal studies. These are very different. They're a study designed to involve collecting data at different points across time. So we have a group of people. You need to have a hardy group because just by rights of people, we lose them. They get lost, they move on, they quit the studies, they pass away, that kind of thing. But we're going to study as a group of people, let's say 1,000 people. And we want to determine how they are throughout 50 years or 30 years. So let's say we were looking at children in foster care and we wanted to determine their lifetime success. Are they more likely to be successful in foster care with interventions or whatever particular factor, Head Start, if they took Head Start, are they more likely to be successful? Again, we're going to have to measure what success is and all those other factors. But what we're going to be doing is measuring them, let's say at 18 or 20, did they graduate high school? At 30, what were the markers that we thought were important there? Were they gainfully employed? Did they have a family? Whatever we were looking for at 45, at 60, and maybe at 80. Or maybe we want to see, does living in foster care decrease their lifespan? Do they make poor choices, or are they less healthy, or whatever? Again, we would look at 20, maybe 30, 45, 60, and 80. So we're going to gather as many people as we can with a set group of questions and follow them throughout that lifespan. Maybe it's somebody who has a medical device and we want to see how they do throughout that lifespan. So getting everybody at that moment only tells me how they're feeling at that moment. I need to know what it's going to look like in 20 years. I need to know what it's going to look like in 40 years. Arranged marriages versus just picking your spouse. Do people that live in rural areas have more marriage success than those in urban areas? These are all things that we might study. And again, we would need a longitudinal study to determine that. Not just who was married, but how many stayed married. I hope that makes sense. Trend studies are something we also see. They tend to be, some of them are longitudinal as well, so they're going to be expanding through the time. And this is when we're studying something that is trending. So something that has come up and we want to see if it's going to make an impact or make a difference. When I've been teaching this class for quite a few years, but 5 years ago, an example I would have used was Head Start. But something that's trending today, just 5 years later, are these STEM schools. So when students go to STEM schools, does it make an impact? Does it make an impact on their employability, on their income potential, on their ability to get into college, on their lifetime success, on their happiness, any of those things? So this is a big trending things in schools, and many of our schools are developing STEM schools within the school districts, which are supposed to be catering to the jobs of tomorrow. Are they? Are they going to work? Are they not going to work? That's what we need to find out. I know myself, I entered my daughter into a STEM school this year. It's first year to open. Will it work? I don't know. There's no research for me to look at. There's nothing for me to analyze. I just had to look at the data and make the best choice I did and hope that I made the right choice. And she may be one of those test groups that we're going to look at later to see what happened. So that's a great example. A cohort study is when we are looking at a group of people that are going to be studied that experienced something over time. So again, it's going to be a longitudinal study, but it's a group of people that all experienced something at the same time. Let's say, for an example, 9/11. 9/11 was a horrific event. It certainly was. But the group of people that experienced that may have had unique experiences that those that hadn't experienced it wouldn't have. So we might want to study that group of people throughout time. We might want to look at them in 10 years and see where they are at a particular thing, maybe their stress factors, their recovery, that kind of thing. We want to look at them in 20 years, we want to look at them in 30 years, we want to look at them in 40 years. It was a horrible event. There's no doubt about it, but it gave us a tremendous amount of data to study to help us to better understand the impact of such events, because we do have tragedies that continue to happen throughout the world, and by studying things like that, it helps us to better understand how to help those that are going to be afflicted by those tragedies, whether they be 9/11, Katrina, Haitian disaster, whatever those events might be. So those would be a cohort, a group of people who went through an experience at a time, and we're going to continue to study that specific group of people that had that experience. No, I think I'm going to end there. It's 15 minutes. I don't like to go over that. People get bored. So hopefully that was helpful, understanding some of those areas in which we will study. Come on back. I'm going to be doing several of these where I'm going to be looking at concepts, conceptualization, and some other terms that are easily confused. Hopefully it was helpful. I'll see you soon.